Hi, I'm Jules. Welcome back to my channel. I make videos about eating disorder recovery. So recently I posted on my blog about challenges that grad school can present to eating disorder recovery. So I'm feeling pretty good in my recovery and I haven't slipped by any means, but I've been spending more time on campus recently and had more social interactions in person with colleagues, and that's reminded me of some of the challenges of grad school. So in terms of where I'm at in my recovery, I suppose I still have thoughts sometimes, but they're very fleeting and I don't have any desire to act on them. So I might have a thought like, oh, I have a lot to do, I could get more done if I skip lunch. But then I'm immediately like, that's stupid, I'm not going to do that. Because I would be hungry and irritable, struggle to get through the work and potentially trigger a relapse, so not going to do that. Similar to thoughts that I have sometimes, like I could just walk out onto the middle of the street, but I'm not going to do that because then I would get hit by a car and get hurt and or die. So I don't ascribe a lot of meaning to the thoughts that I have now, and whether they're eating disorder thoughts or not, because thoughts are very random and not really very meaningful, and they're not at all intrusive anymore, so they are just thoughts to me, and I observe them and let them go and move on. Rascal tried to bite me. I'm sorry. She looks very angry. Okay, I won't stroke you then. So I don't want this video to be about how hard grad school is and how hard eating disorder recovery is. I want it more to be like, here are some challenges that might come up during grad school if you're in recovery from an eating disorder, but you can still succeed at both. Although, of course, in saying that, I recognise that I have a lot of privilege in terms of familial support and also financial stability, so that definitely has an impact. The challenges that have come up that I've noticed during grad school in regards to my recovery are, for example, that you have a lot of work to do and you might think that you don't have enough time to eat, and that's not true. Fundamentally, that's just not true. You have to eat because otherwise you will just die. So you have to eat, you need the energy to get through your work and to survive, but it's true that I don't spend as much time making my lunch or making different breakfasts compared to what I used to do, because I just make something quickly, eat and go back to doing work and move on. So making food, eating it and getting back to work, making food and eating it doesn't really take that long. So for example, it doesn't take that long to make a peanut butter and jam sandwich and to eat it and then get back to doing work. And also you should stop not just because you need food but because your brain needs a break. It's not helpful to just keep working solidly back to back to back without taking some short breaks in between. So in your short breaks, fuel up and eat some snacks and eat your lunch, eat your meals, because that's going to help you power through the work that you have to do rather than struggle through it on an empty stomach. On this, for me right now, I'm doing a lot of data analysis and writing, and so most of my time when I'm doing PhD work is spent sitting on my laptop for quite long periods of time, and that also uses energy. So it might not be physical exercise, but your brain requires a lot of energy, and I feel that I am hungrier when I spend a lot of time writing in particular, or working really hard on some code and doing a lot of thinking that requires doing a lot of thinking and problem solving, that all requires energy and food. So if you're feeling hungrier, listen to that and eat more. Another challenge that comes up in grad school is the feelings of overwhelm and stress, because you have a deadline coming up for hand-in of your thesis, or for getting a paper submitted, or getting an abstract submitted for a conference, and all of these things contribute to a lot of stress, and you don't know how you're going to get everything done in time. You don't know if your code is going to work, if your experiment's going to work, and it's stressful. And often 1 or 2 days a week I will wake up and feel absolutely overwhelmed with the work that I have to do, and I don't know how I'm going to get it done. I don't know what the steps are to get it done, because I have not done this before, and maybe other people haven't done it before, and so you're figuring it all out, and it's hard. I might not feel like eating because I'm feeling really anxious, or I'm feeling nauseous or trembly, but I still need to eat anyway, and almost always eating instantly makes me feel slightly better, because then at least I have a little bit of energy to think through the work and get started on it. And getting started is the hardest part, in my opinion, so even when I don't have high appetite, I still eat. Another challenge about grad school is that your plans are going to fail. So there is so much in grad school that is out of our control, and things are going to go wrong. PhDs are based on investigations that are novel, so we don't know if what we're attempting to do is going to work out, and that's really frightening, and some things are going to go wrong in the process. A lot of things might go wrong. So the experiments you're doing in the lab might fail, the code you're working on is not working, the results that you got are not significant, your paper is rejected, the supervisor you chose is not turning out how you thought they would. So there are so many things that are uncontrollable, and there's just no way that you can get through grad school without experiencing failure of some kind. And so it can be tempting sometimes to think, well, there is something that I know I can do well, and that I know that if I do X, Y, and Z, I can sort of control the outcome. Like if I ate less, I would lose weight, and I'm good at that, and that can make me feel better about myself, potentially, in the short term. Throughout life, we're going to fail, and so it's much more helpful to learn how to cope with those failures now, rather than return to old eating disorder behaviours that you already know in the long term are not going to work out for you. Grad school really provides you with an excellent opportunity to practice your coping strategies when it comes to failure, and to reinforce those coping strategies again and again. And then when you finish with grad school, you will be well set up to cope with any other failures that occur in your life, because you've practiced it. You know what to do when you have setbacks, and how to regulate your emotions, and how to get through it. So practice it now. Practice those coping strategies now, rather than going back to your eating disorder and setting yourself back potentially years of recovery work. Another common problem in grad school, not just for people with eating disorders, is that you don't feel good enough. In grad school, you're surrounded by very intelligent people, and it's easy to compare yourself to others and see the awards or conference presentations that other people are doing and feel that you don't measure up, especially with the intense job competition that people talk about a lot, especially when you're getting towards the end of your PhD, and all of that can just contribute to feeling that you are not enough. I think one of the good things about doing a PhD is that everyone's projects are different, so no one is doing exactly the same thing. There is no point in comparing yourself to others. Probably that won't stop you doing it sometimes, but everyone is at different stages in their journey, doing different projects. There's no way to accurately compare people because it's just all so different. Also, and yes, sometimes there are awards that will attempt to compare people's research or publications or presentations, but a lot of that comes down to good luck. And even at my university, I've been involved in judging panels, and a lot of it is luck. It really is, because these grad school students are already high achievers, right? Grad school students are generally very hardworking and intelligent, and so it's very hard to compare people. It gets very hard to decide who should get an award and who shouldn't when people are neck and neck almost all the time. So again, there's not a lot of point in focusing on the awards because it's essentially luck, and privilege comes into that as well, for sure. So instead, what I do is just focus on my thesis and focus on getting that done, because getting the thesis done, getting your project done is a huge accomplishment in itself, and that's enough. It really is. The other difficulty with grad school as well, and that comparison, is that there are some really big egos in academia and some very outwardly arrogant people who are actually deeply insecure. So the key is to remember that they actually have a lot of insecurity. What people put on their LinkedIn profiles, their Instagrams, etc., Twitters, they're putting their best foot forward, and you don't see the failures that they've encountered along the way and the struggles and the difficulties. So what you see is not the reality, and so you need to keep that in your mind. Back to a couple of more eating disorder related challenges. Even smart people are fooled by diet culture, and this is probably what surprised me most when I started grad school, is that these people who are so clever are still doing these sugar-free diets or carb-free or gluten-free or whatever, and I just was amazed, because we know that it's just a money-making industry behind all this that perpetuates fat phobia and capitalizes on our insecurities and reinforces this unrealistic, usually white, body type. And it can make me very angry, but I also don't need to solve every person's dieting problem, and so usually I'll just try to move the conversation along, because I don't want to get caught up in that. I'm not interested in people's diets, and I also kind of think it's very ignorant to be talking about your diet in this environment where we know that eating disorders thrive. But anyway, putting my judgment aside, let's just talk about something else. So that brings me to my last point, which is that when you're in grad school and academia, you will likely come across at least one person who struggles with disordered eating, and that can be triggering sometimes. I don't find that I get triggered by it anymore. I feel sad, but I try not to dwell on it. Although I wish I could help them, I know that actually I can't because I don't have the expertise. It's not my place. If I said anything, likely it would go badly, and so I'm probably not going to be friends with that person because if they're actively in their eating disorder, because I don't think that's going to be helpful for me. But all you can do when you come across that is really stick to your own path and remember your goals and look at how far you've come and be grateful for where you are now, and that you're not going through what that person is currently going through, because we know what it's like to feel trapped with those horrible intrusive thoughts, and I am so grateful to not be in that space anymore. You might want to help these people. The most important thing is maintaining your own recovery, and that is more than enough. That's all I wanted to talk about today, and if you're in grad school and you're faced with some of these challenges, I hope that maybe this was relatable, and I hope that you're coping with them and not returning to any old eating disorder behaviours, because you need to practice alternative coping strategies, and their eating disorder behaviours just do not help. Thank you so much for watching. I'm sending you lots of love wherever you are, and I will record again soon. Bye!